And welcome to Champion Your Culture, the podcast where we dive deep into the heart of leadership and organizational culture. I'm Ryan McCarty.
And I'm George Rogers. Together, we're here to guide you on a journey of personal and professional growth. Every week, we bring you insights, stories, and strategies to help you and your company thrive in today's dynamic world.
So whether you're leading a team, running a business, or just eager to make a positive impact, you are in the right place. Let's jump right into today's show and champion a culture of purpose and passion. Welcome to Champion Your Culture.
the Zoom.
Try now.
Yeah, that's weird.
Huh.
There we go. Check. And we'll rock and roll.
Try now. Check 1 2 1 2.
We're good.
All right.
I hear it. I don't know what that was about. Hopefully it's good for everybody else. Appreciate that. Shout out to you.
Unless they're hearing this through the computer. I don't know.
Hey, they hear us, so that's the good thing. I don't know who that was, but I appreciate
so nobody could hear that whole first part of the podcast?
I guess not.
Well, anyway.
Start all over?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say is last week was a really good week because we were able to give care kits to those that were or have been through a traumatic brain injury or have a currently or had a brain tumor. And so those survivors that have been through that. And so, yeah, being able to do that through and with my sister, Delana, shout out to her, having gone through that herself.
Yeah.
And that's really what my point was before the audio kicked in was how important it is, I think, for us to find ways to discover purpose in the midst of our pain, right? Yeah. Because having gone through what she went through, now in assisted living at 45 years old and not really having a lot of, she's not mobile, right? She can't drive herself away from there. So being able to do things that bring her joy and finding that joy and helping others, that's that's culture good, man. I mean, that's really what we're doing is like, how do we curate a culture where the whole business is able to find their cause and through that, be able to motivate and mobilize everyone around that cause to get behind it as a collective movement of good. And so just being able to do those type of experiences for us at Culture of Good, it just reminds me what we do every day and why we do what we do every day and the impact that can have. So are we good on audio now?
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
All right, well, geez.
We're rocking and rolling.
Who knows?
We have fun.
Good.
The crazy thing is, Ryan, is that, you know, if nobody hears us, we hear each other.
That's not any good. That's not helping anyone out. Believe me.
we'll make impact. It helps me, Ryan. It soothes my soul to be able to have these conversations.
By the way, I love your shirt.
Thank you. It's, you know, I figured it's Black History Month. And I'll say this as a Black man, I feel like I can say this, and I hope it offends people, and like I'm okay if it does, and I'm okay if it doesn't. But the reality is, it's truth. Like there's a part of me. So I was asked a question, George, why don't you make these posts about Black History Month? And the reality is, and I think I want to say Morgan Freeman made this statement. And I'll say, you know what, that's 100% correct. Because I've never in the last 3 years, I stopped really participating in Black History Month because I don't feel like it allows us as Black people to really get where we want to be. Instead of a Black History Month, it should be American history, number one, right? And it should be celebrated throughout the years. It shouldn't be condensed into a month.
Should be, but it's not.
Right? And it's not.
That's the problem.
And so if we stop celebrating this month and compacting it as if we're forcing, you know, take these 28 and every once in a while, with like this year, we get 29, we get an extra day to celebrate Black history. We are Black history.
Yeah.
We are history. Yeah. And so for me, I could go on about it.
Well, American history is Black history.
American history is Black history. Yeah. And so the shirt.
Yes, talk about it.
Is just a few things that were created by Black men and women. And so at the bottom of it, it says, and you're welcome. So, you know, you're welcome.
So let me read it. The clothes dryer. Blood banks. Mailbox.
Yep.
Potato chips.
And everybody with high cholesterol said hallelujah to potato chips.
And amen. Traffic lights, peanut butter, automatic gear shift, America's first clock.
Yeah, just think about that. Over 70% of Americans should be thankful for a Black person creating the gear shift.
Yes.
Otherwise, we'd be in trouble.
Oh, I know. You
know, so I just wanted to celebrate that.
I love
it. And I wore my special, these are special shoes to me. I got them, and I didn't even know the design, but these are cool shoes. They're kind of a Bronx in Ghana
Oh, nice.
style. So they're designed after that. But inside the shoe, it says sharing stories and building community.
Yeah, I love
And
it.
so I love the inside of these. And, it was special to us because one of our faithful podcasts, one of our podcast family, culture champion families, Flipa,
Yeah.
is from Ghana. And so when I saw that these are Ghana style and she's been a supportive of ours since, we were at the bottom, and we may not be anywhere, but we started at the bottom and she was there. So shout out to our good friend, to all our viewers in Ghana that are supporting our podcast. And she's kind of been the pillar over there for us.
Rap. Started from the bottom, you were there.
Yeah. Started from the bottom. You're still there now.
And you're still coming around.
So we appreciate all of our supporters.
Yeah, thank you.
Especially those overseas that are shouting out and staying up or watching us when they get ready for work, and that are doing good. So that's my special Black History shirt.
Love it.
And I'll try to find some more to wrap, this month, but this is my Black History shirt for the month.
Love it.
But at the same time, hey, Black folks, people of color, and my white brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Let's celebrate American history, Black history all year long.
And let's not remove Black history from American history.
Let's not segregate it
right now. Yeah. More and more. I mean, it's always happened, but it seems to be moving in that direction again. Maybe in a coming episode, we'll be able to just focus on DEI a little bit. I know we were talking about that and how important it is to identify what we're trying to get accomplished here within that. And then also there's a pushback recently against it. Right. And why that pushback is happening and what our response as a culture of good, right? And those that are championing culture and championing diversity in people, what our response should be, right? Yeah. How we should really be supportive of any type of diversity, equity, inclusion effort within an organization, but we have to get past the surface level performative type stuff that leaves a bad taste in people's mouths, right? We certainly may not be able to all end up at the same place, but at least we can give everybody the same opportunity and the same swing at this, and I think that's really what we want to see happen. So today's topic, really important stuff, because you were talking about how you had a conversation with someone about, can I be a powerful leader?
Yeah.
And can I also be emotional? Right. In the sense of, now, again, when we say emotional, there's all kinds of emotions, there's people that say I'm not emotional, but they have 6 kids. Yeah. And you're like, how'd you get 6 kids in? Yeah. You was working some kind of
you
emotion.
Got some emotion. You got emotion, erotic emotion. You got,
you got something going on, or you have bosses that are more militant style. Right. More the cowboy. We've talked about that instead of the shepherd, and their leadership style is more forced on you instead of fostering something in you. And in that, there's that question, I think, that you brought up, you were texting me about it, just like, can we have the strong leader and also be compassionate? Yeah. Can we, which is the word what I was thinking is like compassion, right? And we've talked about that before, but also empathetic, like, and we'll break that down a little bit, because empathy, it turns out, is really the cornerstone to effective leadership. Yeah. So we'll have a boss that's like angry all the time, but anytime you bring up any other emotion like hurt, pain, feelings of abandonment, things that are going on internally or at home that people bring to work, fear, all of those things, or just the care for others, that's considered touchy-feely and emotional, but somehow intimidation's not. You know what I'm saying? So talk to me about that. What's the teeter-totter for you? Like, do you see those on two conflicting sides yourself? Like, do you see strong leadership and empathetic leadership as being different from each other, or where are you at with it?
No, I think to discuss this, you really got to get to the root, right? And what we see in the workplace and how we receive what we say constructive feedback and confrontation, right? We see the aggressiveness, and I'll speak from a man's point of view because that's what I am and who I am, right? We start at the root, and I'll use myself as an example. Some people know me as very empathetic, soft skills, very compassionate, loving, caring, nurturing type of a leader. Few have seen the aggressive minded, get your GSD, right? Get shit done. Focus, sales oriented, let's hit the goals, and no nonsense, right? And there's places and times for those things. The problem is, and I was the opposite way. So I went from very aggressive because the root of my life was, as a man, we don't show emotions, right? We go through something. We
what emotions are you talking about, though?
Right. So we don't show soft side of ourselves. We don't cry, right? Yeah. So when I was raised, where shedding a tear was seen as weakness, right? So we toughen out those things. We harden our hearts, we harden ourselves, and build this wall up because all the time, mom and aunts and uncles were like, real men don't do this. And so in order for me to become a real man, I've raised myself over 15, 20 years, not truly exposing myself to those type of weaknesses.
Now that's interesting because I was raised the opposite. So my dad would kiss me on the cheek. Very emotional family. Like I never heard that growing up. Like,
well, I never had a dad either.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So like I'm learning, even as we're talking, because for me, it was quite different. It was very, not suggesting my family used empathy or emotions. If anything, my family was less about like express your emotions to the fact of like, you don't have any. If you're having a bad day, just think about good stuff.
Right.
Don't bring up anything negative. That kind of thing, like kind of avoiding emotion altogether. Anger, all of it.
Right.
So that's a whole separate thing. So it's like, it wasn't real men don't cry. It was real men cry, but get over it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And so you have yourself, you discover yourself in those rooms where for so long you have this experience in a lifetime where emotions are not shown in that way. Now you can celebrate wins, victories. If you lose, you better not cry. Like in sports, man, a lot of times, especially I go to sports events now, and kids cry. And it's like the childhood memory of what would happen if I walked off the field or off that court or off that mat crying, what would happen to me. My mom was always going to give me something to cry about. That was the thing, right?
Like
if you're going to act that way,
I'll give you something
to cry about. So it was like I was experiencing an emotion, but I was taught that part of the emotion is not part of the lifestyle that I should live.
That's not part of the equation.
And so as I got older as a man, I experienced death. That was near and dear to my heart, right? Losing my grandma at 2005, that was like I lost a part of me because that was the anchor, not only to me, but that was the anchor to our family. Right. Once grandma left, a lot of things just kind of, and that's the way our family has lived.
She was a glue that she was the glue things together.
Right. And so now we have family and there's family functions of thing, but it was somewhat of a dysfunction. Once grandma, the anchor, kind of went, everybody was here. We started moving away. We started growing our own families. We tried to do our own thing. Like Thanksgiving, everybody was there. Sunday, meal, first Sunday, everybody was at grandma's. And now we kind of got older and we do our thing. Right. But through that childhood, that death led me to tears. Where like I didn't know what that felt like. I didn't know what I was feeling. I knew what I was doing, but I didn't know how to receive what I was actually going through. Right. And then I did my natural thing. Suck it up. The show goes on. Right. And I lived my life like that. Just all the way up to 2013. It was the year where I felt like I was forced at the end of 2013 to figure out how to deal with emotions. Right. Because I was very sporadic and anybody in my life knew that, George would be high energy, low energy. And it could literally be me talking to you and turning around, going out the door. and I would just have a sense of whatever, whether it was a word that sparked me or somebody said something that reminded me. It was like it was just small things, but I never was able to really identify those things, right?
Yeah.
And so when I share all that personal matter to say I took all those things in where I was told to lock up my emotions into the world of work
Yeah.
and adulthood, and I was the roller coaster, dude, where it was just so inconsistent. And in 2013, where I was forced to, by health nature, it was either, hey, you're going to be back on this table with a heart attack that won't be able to save you,
Yeah.
or you can figure out how to not just eat and be healthy, right? There's nothing different in my weight than what it was 11 or 10 years ago to this day when I was going through what I was going through.
Yeah.
It was the way I managed the stress and the way I managed my emotions.
Yeah.
The lack of that, and we talk about this, and you share the stat on how many people die,
Yeah.
a year average, right?
120,000 a year die
120
from stress-related work.
Right? Because we don't know how to
Issues.
deal with the stress,
Mm-hmm.
and or in the workplace aren't allowed to deal with those stress.
Well,
right?
a lot
so
of
we talk about
times
the
it's
well-being
like,
side of it.
yeah. Yeah. And it's, for me, it's like I didn't have the coping skills.
Right.
When you learn from others how to feel, right? When you learn from others how to manage your emotions, which I like to think of it now more in leading my emotions, which means I partner with those things, right? So if I'm feeling fear, anxiety, what's that telling me, and how do I partner with that? But a lot of it, I think, has to do with, to your point, how we're raised, and who we are comes from not only nature but nurture.
Yeah.
And so we don't just learn from experience of our own sake, but also we learn from the experiences of others. That's why I think when we talk about empathetic leadership and compassionate leadership, we're not talking about weak leadership. Meek does not mean weak, right? Meek and compassion and empathy and understanding and care and all those things that we wouldn't normally, I guess, back in the day say those are the defining qualities of a real man. What we find out is that is the qualities of a real man.
Yeah.
That there is no such thing as leadership without empathy, which is the key.
Yeah.
Because I think what we're calling leadership without empathy as leadership is really just management and authority. So I can give you authority, but I can't give you leadership, because leadership is developed. Are leaders born? Not so sure. I think there's qualities and personalities that are born that can lead to great leadership qualities. But I believe that leadership is a choice. I think authority and position and title is not is management, and that's, you can be a boss and you can get shit done, and it's all about results. But without relationship, when it's all results and no relationship, you have management and you have authority, but you don't have leadership.
Yeah.
Leadership not only looks at results, but also looks at relationship. It also considers the person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like when we talk about we don't talk about putting people first, because if you put people first, you have to consider profits are put first. You're in business.
Yeah.
Right. But you are in the well-being business. And I think it's important to understand that people should be at the center or the core of what you're doing. Maybe not first in a list of things, but they're the core. They're the soul. They're the heart of what is happening. When you're in leadership and you're given the opportunity to be able to be strong and say, this is the stuff that we have to get done, then that's able to be received when you have a leader that shows empathy. To your point, I would imagine throughout your experience, throughout childhood, and then as you got older and into work, the way that I've learned how to be an empathetic leader and a compassionate leader is to be around those kind of people.
Yeah.
Like those are things you pick up through mentorship. We just went through the whole month of National Mentoring Month or whatever. We think about like, how do we become more of an empathetic leader? there's some practical steps that we can take around that. But one of the first things is just be around a caring leader.
Yeah.
Be around a leader that exemplifies that.
Yeah.
Like that's because to the whole idea of leadership starts with lead. So whoever your leadership is, you're taking their lead.
Right.
So if you want to be a compassionate, caring, empathetic leader who still gets shit done, then you got to find an empathetic, caring, compassionate leader who gets shit done.
Yeah.
And you have to allow that kind of leadership and being around that kind of leadership, which I know you've been around those kind of leaders. They're not perfect. They may not be the best skilled leader in the world, but they have the kind of heart that stands out in a world of hardness, in a world of, quarterly earnings. And it's all about shareholder, profits. And it's not about the people that are the very core of your business. And I think to be an empathetic leader, it means that we have a heart and a care for people's well-being, not just in the workplace, but also at home. We care about people in the workplace and at home as well. And I think that's really important to understand because it's hard enough to find leaders that care about people in work.
Yeah.
But to have empathy means I care about you in your well-being, not just here, but also out there.
Yeah.
Like what's going on? Like how's life? We talk about this all the time. It costs us nothing as leaders to be caring, but it profits us everything.
Right.
The reward of being a caring, compassionate leader is huge. And I think you can do that and also be stern in a sense, is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like to the point of we have to get this done.
Yeah.
Here's how we're getting there. No excuses.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But with that, also recognizing that people are going through stuff.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So it's that good balance of leading, and it goes back to not only leading people, but also understand who you're leading.
Yeah.
And what they're going through in their life. Whether it's, hey, I know this person has a special needs child at home, and it can be stressful.
Yeah.
Or I just learned one of our coaches at Ohio State, his son has seizures every morning.
Yeah.
And they are either somewhat tamed or it leads to having to go to the ER 1 or 2 times a week. I couldn't imagine as a human being having to live through that. And then also the challenges us having to lead through that, because great worker, he's been a part of championship teams and championship organizations.
Yeah.
And so as a coach, I'm thinking of it as a coach, man, college coach, especially, it could be because you're traveling and doing those things. And so when I think about that, I think about a place like Round Room where there's hundreds of people in the office. We all have a story. We all have families. What could that lead to, right? Things happen in life. Uncertainty happens. Death happens. Sickness happens, right? We've experienced that, here in our world over the last 2 or 3 months, both personally with clients and then with our own families where we've lost a loved one. And so being able to show passion when somebody's going through pain, right, and doing those things. When I had this conversation, it really sparked up this conversation that we're having about cultivating a compassionate strength, right, and leading through pain. And being there for others, being human, right? When I think about, especially as we're in the human resources field a lot with our speaking and with our workshop developments and things of that nature, what does human mean when it comes to that, right? It's not, for me, when I think of the few people that I talk to, human resources, what an excitement about doing compliance paperwork, right? It was about the care for people, right? It was the care for people. The root of most people that I've talked to, is the root of it is people.
Every HR person I've talked to is like that. They got into HR and quite frankly, a lot in leaders in general, most leaders I talk to, and quite frankly, some leaders that are just really not great at leadership, still love people, care about people, just don't have those soft skills. That's what I mean by are leaders born or are they developed? I don't even know. All I know is they can be developed. So who cares if they're born or not? Let's develop them. Right. So the idea is like, how do I grow in my leadership? Well, the way that you grow in your leadership ability and the skills that are necessary to really be a leader you're always going to be growing in the hard skills, right? Getting better at your job. But getting better at your job does not mean you're getting better at leading.
Yeah.
And so when you're getting better at leading, you're working on those soft skills, or what we would call harder than hard skills.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
The stuff that you don't want to, many times I think it's like kind of gets put on the back burner, because how do you quantify empathy? That's the issue. What's the ROI for compassion?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we can talk about stats that employees that have a highly engaged, when there's a highly engaged employees, we're seeing a 21 increase in productivity, right?
Yeah.
Profitability rather, because there's a 20% increase in productivity.
Right.
So we know that compassionate, empathetic leadership, there is an ROI. It's the thing is, like, we're measuring companies based off of profitability solely. And I think that's important, right? Because if we don't stay in business, there is nothing to measure. So we have to be profitable.
Yeah.
But in the midst of that, what are we doing around here? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do we do at work, and how are we leading? How are we leading? And I think that's important. I think, to be compassionate does not mean, as I was mentioning in the end, to at all be measured as weak.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I think it really takes a inner strength for a leader to position oneself in the midst of having title and authority and everything else, and actually go out of your way to care about people.
Yeah.
That says a whole lot about that person's heart.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's how you rehumanize the idea, right? And empathetic leadership has a direct impact on employee engagement and productivity. I mean, there is ROI.
Yeah. Let's talk about that, because when we hear empathetic, you said some words that sometimes humans say weakness. So we talk about empathy. We talk about the word soft skills, and the word soft, obviously, some people, I mean, it's just words.
Let's just call it harder than hard skills.
Harder than hard skills, right?
Must be, because not everybody's got it.
Not everybody's able to adapt to it. Can we talk about, because the truth is that empathetic leadership, as you said and have spoken, directly correlates with higher employee engagement, right? It's an impact. It boosts productivity. We've seen that. And whenever there's engaged employees and productivity is higher, that means profitability is then increased as well. It's a domino effect of what that means. When you hear empathetic, if there was a Ryan Esther instead of Webster, it was Ryan Esther dictionary for empathy.
Like Webster dictionary.
Yeah, if you were to define, because we always
I just
take these words. How do you think of empathy in leadership for those people who are trying to understand and really address that emotional but professional need for their talents, their employees, and things of that nature? When you hear empathy as a leader and you say, hey, I think every leader should have an empathetic spirit about them.
Yeah, I would
say,
what are you saying? It comes down to three things. They're caring, they're supportive, and they're understanding.
Yeah.
Caring, supportive, and understanding. That's it.
Yeah.
Nurturing, which a lot of times to your point, I mean, we genderfy everything, right? So nurturing is looked at as like the mother's role, or the female's role in the house. They're the nurturer. And by doing so, when we do that, when we connect a gender to equality, we also allow ourselves and give ourselves permission to not be that as men. So I don't want to get too deep into that conversation, but at the end of the day, we're nurturers.
Yeah.
We nurture. We nurture our kids, we nurture relationships, we're nurturers at work, we're cultivators, right? We're planters, we grow things. So in all of that, we have to be caring and supportive and understanding, because that's that heartfelt type of leadership.
Yeah.
That's not a weak leadership by any means, because it takes a lot of strength for a leader to be caring.
Right.
It takes far less strength and far less power for somebody to come in and bulldoze a room. That is not strength.
Yeah.
That is not power. That's weakness. Weakness is not being able to go into a room as a leader and control your own emotions.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Some people attribute strength to being an asshole.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like the more of an asshole you are, the more strong of a leader you are.
Yeah.
And that there couldn't be anything that could be further away from the truth. If anything, true leadership is for those that are understanding.
Yeah.
True leadership are those that are supportive. True leaders are those that are caring. Outside of being caring and supportive and understanding, again, that doesn't mean that you don't have expectations, but the way that you lead is less driving results and more about developing relationships. And by developing those relationships, that drives the results.
Yeah.
But if all you're focused on is driving results, you're going to do so at the consequence of the well-being of the people that you're leading.
Right.
You have to rehumanize this experience. That's what we're saying on this podcast. Now, how everybody else out there is doing it, and maybe that's just me. I don't know how you feel about it, but for me, it's like, I don't know that leadership exists outside of the sphere of empathy.
Yeah.
Leadership doesn't exist outside of the sphere of caring about people.
Yeah.
The moment I watch someone's behavior and I see that they don't care about someone is the moment that you've lost it.
Yeah. I was looking at some of this research. I want to share some of this because it kind of aligns with Lighthouse Research and Advisory, our peace study. So we did a peace study, performance engagement.
What does the data say?
Let's do it. Let's run it. It's been a while.
Go. And this is brought to you by Lighthouse
Research and
What does the data say? What does the data say? What does the data say? Data.
We got to get Ben back on. We'll have Ben on maybe next month.
Yeah.
There's a lot of research that's coming out on the employer side of this. So we did a peace study with employees, over 1,000 employees.
Okay.
And then we just did another one on the employer side.
Yeah.
With 1,000 plus. And so with this peace research, one of the questions that we asked is really dear to my heart because it's everything that we discuss here was how well does your workplace culture foster a sense of community and belonging among the employees?
Yeah.
When employees said that they felt like they felt very well about this versus those who said not well. So those who said, hey, I feel very well about this. My company does foster a sense of community and belonging in the workplace.
Yeah.
One of the things that really touched my heart was it aligned with some of the values when it was literally 7 times more likely for employees to say, hey, listen, my company's workplace culture aligns with my personal values when they have that sense of community and belonging within the workplace. Another thing that struck me as well was just in the same connection for those people who had that sense of community and belonging, literally 6.5 times more likely to say they feel accepted, respected, and appreciated at work.
Yeah.
When we think about being accepted, respected, and appreciated at work, that is the very psychological root definition of belonging. When I feel respected and accepted and appreciated by my direct leader, that sense of belonging. So when we talk about how do you create these things, how do you foster these things within the workplace and having this compassionate strength, showing this empathy within leadership, it's not just about having a soft skill and truly being what we should be in general as humans. We should care about people, but when we bring it to the workplace, creating and fostering that sense of belonging and community is an impact on us. So you said, how do we keep people engaged? Make them feel like they belong. How do you make people feel like they belong? You can't make them, but you can show them.
Yeah, out of the respect.
Out of the respect by caring.
Yeah.
For who they are.
Yeah.
why they are what they are, right?
Yeah.
We may not be the same. We may not agree or align ourselves from top to bottom. There's a lot of disagreement between you and I that we may disagree about, right?
Right.
But the reality is that I know Ryan cares about me at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Besides our differences on how we may feel, whether it's religious, political, business, whatever the other shit there is, right?
Yeah.
After we get into having that conversation, I know I can stand up and hug my brother.
Yeah.
Right. And so when we talk about that empathy, caring, and giving people that sense of belonging, where at the end of the day, there are going to be differences. And you may not like everything that George does or says. You may not like everything that Ryan does or says. And it'd be scary if you did.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what to do with you if you liked everything I did or said. But the reality is that there can be respect there.
And I think that's important because that sense of belonging comes from what we're talking about today, having that compassionate strength.
Right.
Because people feel it, people, whether or not you belong or not.
Right.
Pretty quick.
Yeah.
You can feel it. You can sense it. It's a really good way of describing empathy, in a way of talking about how you can sense something.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were talking about how I define empathy, and through those words and so forth, but excuse me, when I think about empathy and I think about having a sense of understanding, it's not that I understand everything you're going through, but I have a sense of it.
Yeah.
So I'll just add this into the conversation. And I love all of that because this leads to what you're talking about with belonging, that there's 3 types of empathy. There's more, but when we think about it, we think of what I'm talking about here is that sense of understanding is cognitive empathy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's up here. In some way, I have a sense of understanding of what you're going through, or I seek to understand. So empathy isn't always just like, I feel what you feel. You know what I'm saying? That's not there's some of that. So there's emotional empathy, there's cognitive, there's emotional. Emotional has more to do with a sense of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a sense of understanding, a sense of feeling, and that's that emotional connection. So I feel what you feel, or I have a sense of that feeling. I can't totally feel what you feel. And that's why I can't say your feelings are invalid.
Yeah.
You're feeling them. They're as real can be. But so there's cognitive, there's emotional, and then there's compassionate empathy, which I love this idea because we're talking about that compassionate strength.
Yeah.
And compassion within the scope of empathy beyond just cognitive, where I have a sense of understanding, or emotional, where I have a sense of feeling that empathy, but also I have a sense of compassion to do something.
Yeah.
Right? To act, not to fix anything, but to show up, to be present. You know what I'm saying? Like these are things that help us build our empathy muscle.
Yeah.
Is being present. We talk about all the time. Shannon brought it into our language at Culture of Good. Just this idea of showing up. And when we show up for people, and we really show up for them, and we're in it with them, and we don't just let them go when they're going through stuff. We don't just fire them when they're having a bad season. You know what I'm saying? But we walk through those moments with them when we feel or have a sense of feeling there's that responsibility of connection. There's that belonging. I belong where people are empathetic toward me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think about it. If you don't have empathetic leadership, all you have is pathetic leadership. You like that?
That's good. That's good. Say that one more time so everybody in the back can hear it.
If you don't have empathetic leadership, all you have is pathetic leadership.
Yeah.
And that's the idea I think that we're talking about here, is like getting to a place where we're really building this in. Let's think about also like empathy in terms of inclusion. We talked about how we're going to be talking about DEI this month, but also like, I don't have a sense or knowledge of what you're going through in that sense, because your experience is far different than mine. We have diverse experiences. See, You were raised different than I was raised. The experiences that you've had in society are different than I have, in the workplace are different. I can seek to understand. I can seek to have a sense of understanding. It's in that that gives us the opportunity for us to build cultures that are innovative and creative, right? Because if I'm not an empathetic leader, then I'm not connected to you. We don't belong together. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And when we belong together, then that gives us the opportunity in our diversity to be more creative, to be more innovative. And what we're finding is that the most innovative type of businesses and cultures are those that have leaders that exemplify compassion and empathy. Why? Because it takes that to be innovative.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To embrace diversity of thought, to embrace diversity of experiences, to understand that if employees feel like they're understood, then they're going to be far more ambitious in terms of being innovative within their work. But if there's leaders that are just like, you don't want to ever stick your neck out because you don't know if you're the next one to get it chopped off,
Yeah.
then you're not going to be innovative.
Yeah.
You won't be creative.
Yeah.
If you see a creative culture and an innovative culture, I guarantee you're also going to find empathetic leadership.
Yeah. So we're talking then long-term benefits
Mm-hmm.
of empathetic leadership within the organization and how that impacts a lot of things. I mean, there's a lot of different type of domino effects, what it can do to the organization's culture,
Yeah.
right? When we have leaders who care, who show up, as you said, and the most important thing of all leadership, and we put this at the forefront, leadership begins with self-leadership.
Sure.
And so when we say showing up, just as much as we show up for others, that was the thing that I had to learn, right?
Mhm.
Is that I love showing up for other people, but man, I had to show up for myself.
Yeah. It takes a lot of
I would show up
self-awareness.
drained with
Yeah.
nothing to give for people.
Yeah.
Now I'll stay at home
Yeah.
when I'm drained,
Right. Right. Right.
to find myself or
Yeah.
to get stuff, with my family. Yesterday, had opportunity just to sit and enjoy Dexter,
Yeah.
right, and watch and listen to him. I went downstairs and I'm thinking he's on the phone with his sister. We call his sister our adopted girl, Lene, and they're playing games. And I'm sitting here thinking, I didn't have either one of these kids.
Yeah.
But they're mine.
Yeah.
I claim them as if they're mine and raise them as such and take
Yeah.
care of them as such. And here they are. One's 20 plus. I won't say her age because she might get mad. But she's a
Yeah.
20-year-old young lady who's become a great woman in this world. And here she is spending an hour, almost an hour and a half, probably straight playing Fortnite.
Right.
Right. So here I'm like, I've always dreamed of being a parent and watching kids, play video games because they don't have no clue what it's like to suffer back in our days where we had Nintendo, we had to blow it out,
Well,
Now
back in my days, it was Atari.
Atari. So you had to make sure
I had Pong,
yeah.
which is just the two knobs.
Knobs.
And the
Yep.
lines. Yeah.
So like they're playing Fortnite and I'm loving every minute of it. And I'm
Yeah.
just enjoying sitting next to them watching. I have
Yeah.
no clue how to play Fortnite. A little bit maybe, but I ain't great. He won't let me be on his team or his
Yeah.
squad. Right. And so but just having those moments
Yeah.
where I could show up for other people, I can go hang out and do other things. But for that moment, what I needed was just to be with my kid. Even if that meant he wasn't showing me nothing, no time, but just being in his presence and his joy, excitement.
Yeah.
Then we had some moments. We talked a little bit and chatted some and everything. But the importance of showing up for ourselves. So as
Yeah.
leaders in the business and organization, showing yourself empathy as well as giving it is important as well for the long-term success of the organization. So we're saying show up. We're saying caring for people is important, but we're also telling and asking you to also do the same for
and
yourself.
I think it's self-awareness.
Yeah.
I think it's that's why emotional intelligence, EQ, is so important. You could have the highest IQ, but if you don't have EQ, really doesn't do you much good, because you can have an intelligence and a knowledge of something, but if you don't have the wisdom to apply it. So I would say EQ is just as, if not more important than IQ, in the sense of going beyond knowledge to wisdom on how to be self-aware, even to be able to spend time with oneself and lead oneself, and to be able to recognize, as I was mentioning earlier, what are these emotions coming up in me?
Yeah.
How to deal with complex emotions, how to deal with what's going on internally inside of myself. Because to your point, the more that I'm able to lead myself, the greater I'm able to have a capacity even to lead someone else. Now, we've got a third idea here with this, but before we do, I want to take a real quick break. Are we cool with that?
Yeah.
All right. All right.
Let's go.
I know we're coming down to time here, but this one's good. So this is for all you HR people out there. We're so sorry for all you deal with, but we do want to laugh at your expense. so this is the craziest shit in HR, brought to you by The Culture of Good. Don't forget our 2-day certification coming up on February 27th and 28th on cultureofgood.com. You can reach out and find out about that. Here we go. Craziest shit in HR. All right, so this is on Tales from HR on Reddit. So this is called Drug Screens Gone Wrong. I work in the HR of a medical care's billing office. The recruiters would look for folks who could argue with insurance companies for payments, yet also be compassionate with folks needing to make payment arrangements. Just what we're talking about here. Basically, credit agency.
Yeah.
They had a good candidate that was 50 plus years old lady, and sent off to have her complete a drug screen as the process goes. A couple days later, we get her red hot results with several positives, including cocaine. I don't know what we laughing at, but it's funny. Well, obviously we can't have that. When the recruiter called the ex-candidate to explain her offer was rescinded, well, the sweet little old lady, I don't know why they call her little old lady. I'm 47. I'm almost 50 myself. Asked if her having sex with her boyfriend after he had been doing drugs could have caused that result. We were all flabbergasted and honestly didn't know how to answer that particular question. That's HR. Like, you go into HR just to help people, and you got to deal with cocaine, sex parties.
Yeah. I'm thinking, man,
that is crazy. I don't even know the answer to that. Is it true? I don't know. It could be. I have no idea.
At this point, you got to ask ChatGPT.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, as I'm over here, I'm like, man, I have trust issues just in general. Like, I just don't go out and trust a lot of people. I don't know if I can trust to have that conversation with somebody that I'm trying to get a job with.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah, that's a come on, man, and a crazy shit in HR.
That is crazy.
That's all of them. Anyway,
I mean, I don't even know where to go with that.
Yeah, like, I'm just gonna leave it there.
You're just gonna leave it there.
Just laugh and move on, because I don't think there's an. I don't even want to know the answer to that. Don't need to know the answer to that question.
I don't.
But I guarantee you, I'm gonna Google it afterwards.
Yeah.
But yeah. So let's get back to this serious convo. But honestly, that is the idea that we're talking about, is that long-term impact of empathy. What are the long-term impacts? Well, you have engagement, you have productivity, performance increases. And when we're talking empathy, we're talking about being a strong leader. We're not suggesting that when you're empathetic, you don't have expectations on people, that you don't put demands on people.
Yeah.
You still have all of that stuff, but it comes across way different when you have someone caring about you, to your point, saying, I need this from you, because you also know that they want something for you.
Right.
They're not just there to extract.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Leaders take on a position of investment, not extraction. And so when we think about investing in others and pouring into others, we have to do so with a heart of compassion.
No.
Because people suck sometimes, man.
Yeah.
They do. And we do too. I mean,
we're people, and there's no perfection in that, right? And so
it's perfect-ish at best.
It's perfect-ish at best. And when and this is something that I've had to learn, when you give somebody the power to where you're expecting something from them, it's expectations. That's the sucky part about things. We expect somebody to treat us a certain way.
Yeah.
We expect somebody to be there for us when we're down. We expect, and expectation is the downfall of disappointment.
Yeah.
Right. There's no disappointment when there's no expectation. But when you care,
yeah.
right, when you are invested, those expectations tend to just kind of creep up there. And so, guarding yourself, and balancing, I would say, should be the word, balancing that expectation, because we're all human.
Yeah.
And George shows up for people. Ryan shows up for people. And in my darkest day, Ryan wasn't there.
Yeah.
Right. And so how do you balance that when you see people showing up for everybody else, but they're not there for you? Right. When you have that leader that's always there, and then when you need that leader, because that's the fight. When I need the leader's not there.
Yeah.
And so balancing that. And I think a lot of it is a two-way street, right? You can't have a wall up as an employee that says you're not going to get past this wall, but when you really need something, expect that person to be there.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And so there has to be a balance. And so we don't always say, hey, leader, you got to do this. Employees, you got to be able to let them not only knock at the door, at least crack the window, let's have a conversation, let the air breeze through. There has to be a two-way street, right? There's no one-way street when it comes to empathy and connecting with each other. And so got to have that balance.
What do you do? What do you do when you have a leader that's not empathetic?
I think that's a communication, because although not all behaviors learn behavior. Sometimes I feel like I go back and forth. All behaviors learn behavior. No, it's not. Sometimes you're just born with certain things. It just comes with the DNA, right? And so that emotion. But I think when you have a leader that does not embody empathy, I tend to want to know their heart. Yeah, because it's not that people don't care. It's how do you show that you care?
So
because they have a different way of showing it.
Do you think it's appropriate for a team member? So if you were my boss and I didn't feel that you exemplified empathy, I need to communicate that with you in a sense, but I might be scared to, because if you don't practice empathy, I don't know what I'm going to get from you.
Right.
So let's take the toxic leader off this conversation. Let's just talk about just a normal person that's just trying to be a leader.
Right.
They're not great at empathy. I think what is appropriate is being able also to be able to say, this is what I need from you.
Right.
I think it's okay as a team member to go to your boss or leader or manager, whatever your supervisor, higher ups, and say, I need this from you.
Yeah.
Or I work best in this environment.
Yeah.
And the younger generations, are more, they're communicating that more and more.
Yeah. But I think a lot of it too, I don't want to blame everything on COVID, the pandemic, or 2020 and everything that went there, George Floyd, Breonna, all those things. What I will say is this: over the last few years, we as people have spent a lot of time, somewhat because we had to, with ourselves or our families.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time with ourselves.
Yeah.
And sometimes, for me, the worst person I wanted to be around was myself. I didn't want to be alone.
Yeah.
Right. I don't, that doesn't excite me. In the past, I should say. Now, like, I'm a homebody. I'll go up to a room and shut the door and put on headphones, and whatever is going on in the world is beyond me.
Yeah.
Right. But when it comes to having that type of leader and being an employee that needs that, I think it goes back to everything that we've always, preached, and that's having that, fostering that open communication.
Yeah.
I think it's showing what you need and how you need it. Hey, this is what the company is expecting of me. Right. What we've discovered over the last 4 years or so is that, hey, this is what the company is expecting from me. This is what I'm expecting for you to do for me. Right. And so it's become a two-way street where, a lot of people, the corporate says, man, the employees have the balance where they're, everything's the employees, and we're trying to get this back. And part of getting this back is, we're taking this, we're pulling this away, or we're bringing people here versus hybrid. And, this whole battle, the reality is it goes back to the root of, number one, we're all human.
Yeah.
We're people.
Yeah.
And this is how we function.
And we all want to be successful.
I'm just trying to function.
And we all want to be successful.
Yeah.
Right. And I think to that point, and as we end today, I think it's really important to understand that this is what people are hungry for.
Yeah.
This is, and not just younger generations. I want to add that when you exemplify compassion and care and empathy and understanding, and you're a supportive kind of leader that's heartfelt, you know what I'm saying? People can feel your heart. That goes a really long way. Yeah. And people want to work. You talk about driving down turnover. People want to work for a leadership culture that's supportive.
Yeah. I mean, there was a stat a few years ago, right during the COVID time, where 93% of employees said that they were more likely to stay when they had an empathetic leader, right? Having a leader that cares about you as an individual. Yeah. And having that leadership culture that defines that, right? The values of an organization that are living through true with their promises and their core values is so important. People are going to stay and be a part of that, and they'll figure out how can we work together. That's the word, right? How can we, which means, hey, I'm in this too, work together. How can we do this work and work together?
Almost like, how does all this work?
Yeah. Yeah. It's literally another marriage. It's a marriage of communication.
Yeah.
What do you need? What makes you happy? What satisfies you?
Yeah.
Right. And if you don't get it here, like, I want you to have it here. So what can we do to make this work? How can we balance this?
And also we understand that we can't make everybody happy.
We
can't hit everybody's wants.
Yeah.
But the intrinsic motivators that go beyond the carrot or the stick is what we're talking about. That internal, the heart motivators that's intrinsically within us, what makes us human, will keep us in the workplace if we can see that exemplified in our leadership. Yeah. So, hey, it's good stuff. This is the cornerstone of culture, is leadership. You don't have culture without leadership, and you don't have a culture of trust without this kind of leadership. Yeah. You can start every program on earth, go to every conference and learn about this shit. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to, as leaders, we have to exemplify this. So
it's either a lifestyle or a lie.
Yeah.
You talk about it, but you're not being about it. People are going to see that.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that people see through more than a fake spirit.
Yeah. So be about it.
Be about it. That's right.
It's good stuff.
Appreciate it, man. It's fun as always. Appreciate everybody watching us here live and or watching us or listening to us at your choice. As always, we're grateful for your attention and that you trust us to say something good or at least make you smile or laugh. So a lot of people love the data song as well today. So we appreciate everybody doing that. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube, our podcast, whatever platform you listen to. That helps us out, and share it with your people. We appreciate it so much for the support out there. Jason, shout out to Jason today. Thank you, sir, for being a part of our podcast. As always, you are another one of our faithful listeners out there. Until next time, my friend.
Yeah, we'll see you back next week on Champion Your
Culture.
Thank you for tuning in to Champion Your Culture. We hope today's episode has sparked new ideas and inspiration for your journey in leadership and cultural development.
Building a culture good is a collective effort. If you found value in conversations today, please subscribe to our podcast. Follow us on your favorite platform and share this episode with your friends and colleagues.
Your support helps us reach more people and spread the message of impactful leadership and positive cultural change. Don't forget to visit cultureofgood.com to explore how you can become a certified culture champion.
Every week, we're here to bring you insights and strategies that matter. So join us again for more empowering discussions. Let's continue to champion a culture of purpose and passion together.
Until next time, keep leading with heart, and let's make a positive difference in the world. And we'll see you next week on Champion Your Culture.